very willing to do that. The purpose of, well, first of all, welcome to everyone. The purpose of this meeting is to look at economic development opportunities that exist specifically in Newark, but in the entire state as well. And we have an illustrious panel. This particular meeting is being sponsored by the Economic Development Meeting. So what we've started doing is we have some very active committees. Our active committees include religious affairs, civic engagement, health, environmental justice, criminal justice, AXO, and housing. And so what we've been doing is asking each committee to host a general meeting to bring information to you. And so tonight's meeting is actually an outgrowth of some information that had been released by the African American Chamber of Commerce, by the Essex County Board of Commissioners. And so to unpack what is happening and what we can do about it, because it's one thing to talk about what's happening, and it's another thing to do something about it. And so what we want to do is to talk about the issue and then find a solution and action to fix the issue. And so I want to turn this over to our economic development chairperson, Tara Williams Harrington, who will take it from here. The other thing that we've started doing as well is having our guest speakers at the beginning of our meetings so that you can get the wealth and the breadth of the information early on, as opposed to sitting through the meeting and hearing reports. The reports will be given after the speakers, but we want to give the bulk of the time to the speakers to give very important information that we can use. So I will turn it over to Tara, and in the meantime, still try to see if I can get us on Facebook. Tara? Tara?
Hello. Okay, I apologize, everyone. I just got a frantic text message from someone who needed the updated link. Um, good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us tonight for this very timely uh, meeting as we have just elected new elected officials and we can start to create our list of marching orders that we want them to hopefully follow. Um, I'm really excited tonight to be moderating this panel with the discussion of From Data to Action, Closing the Equity Gap in Public Contracting. It's certainly designed to help our community better understand the findings of the state diversity study and the Essex County diversity studies, and most importantly, what it is being done now and what has been done to try to close the gap of access for minority and women-owned businesses or diverse businesses. So before we begin with the full panel, one of our committee members, Lavie Johnson. I'm going to turn it over to her to introduce our illustrious panel. I'm very excited that we're able to get these people in. So I'm going to turn it over to Lavita Johnson of our panelists tonight.
Good evening, good evening, good evening, and welcome all. The first person I am going to introduce, her name is Allison Ladd. She is the Deputy Mayor, Director of Economic and Housing Development for the City of Newark. Allison Ladd spearheads Newark's housing and development efforts. Under her leadership, Ms. Ladd has focused on implementing Mayor Rajday Baraka's equitable growth strategy, harnessing the billions of dollars of new investment in the city of Newark to create opportunities for all residents and businesses. In Newark, Ms. Allison Ladd has led the development of new policies, programs, and financing tools to preserve and expand affordable housing, minimize foreclosures, prevent evictions, help residents purchase their first homes, transform abandoned properties into neighborhood assets, and create mixed income housing through inclusionary zoning. She oversees the city's Equitable Growth Commission and is the board chair of Invest Newark, the quasi-governmental organization charged with strengthening Newark small businesses, implementing the city's land bank, and operating the nation's fastest broadband fiber network. The next person I am going to introduce is Assemblywoman Shavonda E. Sumter. She is the New Jersey General Assembly 35th Legislative District. Assemblywoman Shavonda Sumter entered the New Jersey's General Assembly in 2012. She has served in the executive leadership as Deputy Speaker and Majority Conference Leader. Assemblywoman Sumter currently represents the 35th Legislative District that includes parts of Bergen and Passaic County. In the current session, Assemblywoman Sumter serves as chair of the Assembly Committee, Community Development, and Women's Affairs, where she looks forward to tackling important issues such as community blight, wealth gap, upscaling the needs of New Jersey's small businesses, and women's rights. She is also the vice chair of Environmental, Natural Resources, and Solid Waste, as well as a member of the Labor Committee. In addition, Assemblywoman Sumter is the first woman to serve as chair of the New Jersey Legislative Black Caucus. She is also recognized that her legislation transcends her district and affects 9 million people in the state of New Jersey. She is a staunch advocate for job growth, women's health, voting rights, civil rights, and criminal justice reform. She also has championed legislation addressing Black maternal and infant mortality in the state. Moreover, her voting rights legislation implemented in March of 2020 successfully restored voting rights for over 80,000 individuals on probation or parole, illustrating her dedication to ensure equal and accessible democratic participation for all citizens. And finally, we have the professor of the Supply Chain Management Department and director of Rutgers Center for Local Supply Chain Resilience and the director of Public-Private Community Partnerships of the Rutgers Business School. Dr. Lyons' research partnerships of the Rutgers Business School includes, there's feedback happening. Okay. Dr. Lyons' research includes the integration of sustainability, social and health impact criteria into supply chain, procurement, and contracting processes and operations to promote economic development and positive social determinants of health outcomes. He has developed the Supply Chain Environmental Archaeology Research Program Lab, which involves the archaeological study of climate change and environmental impacts via the supply chain, big data analytics, risk assessment, decisions analysis, as well as productive end of life and new product innovations, which reduce waste, climate impacts. Oh, excuse me, let me go back 1 second. New product innovation research. Dr. Lyons has also researched and developed in-state and end of supply chain networks, which reduce waste, climate impact, while increasing economic prosperity. He is the principal investigator for multiple public procurement, purchasing, and equity investment disparity studies and the United States Department of Mandela Washington Fellowship Program. Previously, he was the Chief Procurement Officer at Rutgers, the State University of the New Jersey, and he is a U.S. Air Force veteran. And thank you for your service. We welcome all three of you as our guests on this evening, and I turn it back over to the hands of our chair.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Lavita, for the those introductions. And as you all can see, our panelists have a wealth of experience and a wealth of knowledge in this space to be able to share a lot with us and also guide us into what our next steps will be. So I would first like to give our first speaker, Allison Ladd, and this is going to focus on what's happening locally in procurement and what are some things that, because Newark seems to be doing the things right, right? So what are some of the things that Newark is doing in procurement and ensuring that there is a wealth of diverse businesses that are supporting the needs of the city? So I'm going to turn it over to Deputy Ladd to speak on what the city is doing in procurement.
Thank you very much for the invitation to Deborah Smith-Gregory and yourself. I appreciate being here. Also love seeing fellow panelists, both. So really great to be with you. So I felt like the best way to talk about it was to give you some of the things that the city of Newark is working on and some of the things that we require. So I think many of you know that the Mayor Baraka is very laser focused on finding ways for residents of Newark to build wealth. And so that comes in all forms and fashions. But I think some primary ways that the mayor helps our residents build wealth are one, around contracting options. So here in Newark, once the mayor had heard about the percentage of Newark-based businesses that were getting contracts in Newark, meaning the city government, he actually told us as directors, as I guess a mandate, that we needed to increase our percentage from where it was, which was less than 10%, to greater than 30%. So I know that now each of our departments actually tracks and focuses on using local businesses for everything that we do. That's whether it's, buying supplies, to buying lumber so we can board a property, to anything else that you would have to purchase. We are really hyper focused on working with local businesses before others. We know that sometimes that could be a cost premium for some, but we feel that it's important for us to be, again, giving wealth back to our community and those that live here. The second thing I think that the mayor has focused on is also bringing in jobs through real estate development. And so we provide the equitable development platform. And part of that, when we fund projects, is we require two main things. One, that they comply with our workforce development goals and contracting goals. So we really want our developers to do at least 25% for minority workers and minority employees in construction jobs. And we also want our the subcontractors to be at least 40% of all of our construction jobs. And so it's not easy sometimes, because sometimes our developers will talk about, well, are there enough people who know how to do the trades? But the thing that we always respond to them with is that we have a great workforce development deputy mayor in Rahman Muhammad, and also our workforce investment board that is training a lot of Newarkers to be in these trades so they can be part of the development and growth and the jobs that are available in the city, especially at this time. The second piece that we focus on is also a minority co-developer. So I think this might be unique to Newark, but when we have large scale developments, and even small scale, frankly, we also want minority co-developers to be part of that. So sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. By that, I mean, it's still a partnership and you still have to get two companies to be able to work together and have many personalities work together as well. But we've seen some really successful partnerships when it comes down to finding a way to understand both the local economy, local politics, as well as how to get resources from investment bankers and institutions, and also navigate our state agencies. And so I think that having a law that requires minority co-developers has been helpful because it's building capacity of our development developers in Newark. And so that just leads me to one other aspect, and then I'm happy to pause and let others speak, is to say that because of the baseline laws and ordinances, what it does is it allows the city to create initiatives that are designed especially for Newarkers. So one thing we recently did was this community development effort where we were selling 16 larger parcels of land to community-based organizations and local Newark developers. And I will tell you, we had 96 applications for these 16 sites. We only could choose 16. But the thing that is most heartwarming, I think, and also important is that every single joint venture has a Newark-based organization and a Newark-based developer. And I think that that was really a testament to something that the Mayor Baraka wants to see in our city, is that we can have development and we can have developers of all, walks of life, but we do want to ensure that Newarkers and Newark developers and businesses are able to be part of the growth. And so those are three different ways in which we're seeing it here in Newark. And I'm happy to pause. And I know we have other great speakers, but thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Deputy Lab, for that awesome information. Because some of these projects I didn't even know was happening, and it's great to know what the percentages are and what the goals are, so that we can come back later and say, okay, did we hit those goals? So thank you. So our next speaker will be Kevin Lyons, and Kevin's experience is on both ends, right, of the procurement spectrum. And so we're going to turn it over to Kevin to share his happening, what can be happening, and what things are available, being that, you're in the realm of academia and research. So there could be some things that maybe we don't know that we should be doing that we can be adding. So I'm going to turn it over to you. And one thing I did forget to say is that we are allowing 8 minutes for each person. And I want to say, Allison, you was right on point. So thank you so much. And I'm turning it over to Dr. Kevin Lyons.
Thank you, Tara. I just looked at my watch just to make sure. Okay. So thank you again for the invitation. I really appreciate being here tonight. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to concentrate on the disparity studies as well as the action plan for NAACP and the community to take action now that these reports have been released. The one thing I can tell you is I've actually conducted purchasing disparity studies. I did the one for Jersey City. I've done 2 for the New Jersey Economic Development Authority and for cities outside of New Jersey as well. So I did Pittsburgh and a few others. So these are serious documents that need action. So what I've done is I've broken my comments into 4 sections. First, acknowledgement of the disparity study itself and what it says. Number two, what public procurement professionals should do and could do. The third is what NAACP Newark members and the community leaders can do. And then lastly, number four, I thought I'd spend a short bit of time on joint action. So what can procurement professionals do together with NAACP Newark to move this forward? So these are your marching orders. And I have copies of this, so I'll share it with the group just in case I miss anything. So the first thing is obviously acknowledging that these two reports actually exist. The data is not only a lot of information, but it also identifies the gaps. That's incredibly important. And the gaps, it documents a systematic exclusion. And, I hate to be harsh, but it really does show most of these disparity reports show that there's availability and opportunity, but no action that is taken. And some of that has to do with the public procurement process itself, but also information that needs to be going out to the individuals who you want to participate. So the suppliers themselves, if you do the interviews as part of these disparity studies, always talk about limited access to contracting opportunities, structural barriers as it relates to procurement, lack of supplier development as far as, hey, what does it take to actually participate in these opportunities, and then minimal participation of local and small minority suppliers in the process itself, as far, and when I say process, the procurement process. So first section, what can procurement folks do? Number one, expand supplier outreach. Back when I was in procurement, we got graded on how much time did we spend outside of the office going out and recruiting suppliers. I don't think that happens as much anymore because we have the internet and such. So outreach is important. Release procurement calendars 90 days in advance. So if you're going to be doing a contractual process, you have to give folks time to be prepared to participate. Host quarterly upcoming solicitation briefings and participation in cooperation with NAACP. So it could be another way for both procurement and NAACP to get the word out, in a sense. Offer pre-bid walkthroughs for high value contracts. So basically, it's getting information out that, hey, there's a major contract coming up. However, we're going to have an opportunity for folks to come in and ask questions and take a look at what's about ready to happen before we release all the important documents and such related to that project. And then simplify a lot of the language. And I'm not saying that contractors don't understand the language. They do. But I get some of the documents, I look at them, and I don't know what's going on. And I was in contracting and procurement before. So there's a lot to be said about making sure that the documentation that folks receive is, straightforward and doesn't need to be voluminous. I understand that it's sometimes legal language that needs to be out there, but get to the point and actually get to the what you actually need. Next, incorporate equity and local economic development into the scoring of contracts. So you score on quality, you score on pricing, but where's the score on equity and local economic impact as part of the decision making for the award of the contract? So those are just some of the things. I have more, but again, when you get the document, you can see some other items that they can do. Number three, what can NAACP Network Newark members and community leaders do? I have create a community contract watch. It's more like a neighborhood watch, but guess what? We got a contract watch now. Track which agencies award contracts to diverse businesses, which Deputy Mayor Ladd identified this idea of, agencies that are doing great things, but we want to track to see how you're matching the goals that you've actually set out. Publish quarterly transparency dashboards. This is something that definitely the university could help with. Recognize agencies making progress, spotlight those who are failing behind or falling behind. So basically, hey, we want to reward the folks that are doing great stuff, but hey, we want to encourage those agencies that need a little hand. Build local vendor mobilization networks. So basically spending more time, and this is something I hear a lot from suppliers, that we don't spend enough time, out in the field, reaching out to them and talking to them on a regular basis. So build some networks of suppliers that can get together on a regular basis to talk about opportunities. Offer bid-ready boot camps for local minority-owned businesses. Basically, there's something that we can do again with the university to actually talk about the readiness, preparedness, looking ahead, and actually talking about certain areas of your business that you can strengthen in order for you to actually be competitive on a lot of these contracts. Maintain a directory of NAACP member businesses and match them to upcoming opportunities. So I know that there's, members that are also business owners, of course, and then being able to look at that as a benefit, in a sense, to being a good quality business within Essex County as well as in Newark. Assist businesses with certifications. I know that this is something that still is required for a lot of major contracts, but a lot of these contracts require and actually look for small business certifications and other types of certifications as part of your package. Okay. And then I'm going to end with is the joint actions. So quarterly meetings, of course, as they relate to contracts, where there's procurement directors and the NAACP leaders, chambers, and small business leaders all together, sort of, on a maybe quarterly type basis, sitting down and strategizing on contracts. Focusing again on barriers, because there's a lot that's going on that's keeping our local and diverse businesses from participating. So let's talk about that, get it out in the open, and actually come up with strategies to overcome some of those barriers. Okay, and then lastly, there's a lot that the university should and could be doing to support our local businesses as well, including preparing them for commodities and services and opportunities that, the public procurement folks are asking for, but they look in the landscape and say, hey, these businesses don't exist. Well, they do. They might not be advertising, specifically what you're looking for, but we need to actually spend a little bit more time, almost commercials and advertising the fact that these businesses are capable, they're ready, and they can participate in the bid process. So with that, I yield.
Wow.
Awesome.
I know I wasn't supposed to say anything, but Kevin, thank you so much for everything that you've said, and we will be following up.
Great.
So back to the chairperson of this meeting, Tara Williams Harrington.
Thank you, President Smith Gregory. And I also want to also say thank you, Dr. Lyons, because you just, gave our committee its, agenda for the next year, which is awesome. Um, in addition to what Dr. Lyons has said, we also have Assemblywoman Shavonda Sumter. And she is on the legislative side, right? So she has already been championing much of what we're talking about here. Um, and she can let us know what we can be doing going forward. Sadly, she did not run for reelection. But we do hope that you pass along what you're working on to the person taking over your spot to ensure that these things continue to move on. So if you could speak a little bit to some of the legislation that is in the assembly, specifically the one that we've been kind of following is the A 4486 as well, which is the increase the set aside to 30% for diverse businesses. So that was just one that you co-sponsored. But if you can talk to those and some of the things that we can do to help push those bills through to actually become laws.
Great. Thank you so much for having me. And I apologize for the conflict, but it's just really a busy time and all good stuff. This is one topic that's important to me because it's legacy work. So I'm thankful that the NAACP is picking it up. I'm grateful for the work that the city of Newark has done in making sure that there was vision behind the repair for the wealth gap and the harms and the inclusion of minority and women business enterprises in procurement processes. Let's just start with there's 3 opportunities to contract in the procurement space, not only construction, but goods and services and professional services. Now, often we've heard, and I've been on the Labor Committee, Community Development, and Women's Affairs, and there was no registry, if you will. When you're doing all of the registration for your business, it does not designate you as an MWBE. You actually have to do a separate certification for that designation, which we learned about. The Legislative Black Caucus made it a point that this was not tenable for a number of businesses who were struggling to make ends meet, to running their day-to-day, to go to the Treasury website, figure out how to register, and plus pay a fee for the certification with no guarantees that they would get business. So now there's no fee, but we have to remind people, if the NAACP can help with this, that they need to register with the New Jersey State Department of Treasury as a minority women business enterprise entity. That designation still has power, despite what you hear on the federal government of ODEI. Okay, so let's be clear. The other piece, because that's the first step, because it puts you in the space to be considered when proposals come out on a state level. Now, to the visionary leadership of using executive power of Mayor Ras Baraka, that's what we need in a governor. In this campaign, we heard that the disparity study made it into the campaign. All of the work that we've done for repair and set aside programs, and we came up with the number 30%. It wasn't pulled out the air. It literally was based on the assessment from a consultant who was contracted and procured to do the data analysis court mandated. So this was not something that we came up with as a whim in numbers. The data points matter, and why set aside for minorities, women, is because it was very specific, the study. So we can't just say, okay, let's put veterans in it. Okay, let's put, give me any other classification, LGBTQ plus in it. The study was so specific and court mandated. That's why African Americans were targeted, women were targeted, Latinos were targeted, as well as Asian business enterprises. So very specific. The data was stark and clear that it wasn't for a lack of businesses. It was for a lack of outreach. It was for a lack of opportunity and selection. So the legislation that you all are uplifting, and I thank you for that. And the good news is, while I'm leaving, Assemblywoman Spate will still be there, and she's the co-prime. So she will continue to champion that. Also representing Brick City. I was with her yesterday. So God willing, this is one of my priorities to get done before I leave. And please, please, please note, we had to use specific language. We talked to the chambers. We can't allow this to be upended. This is a 20-year in the making project to just get us started that we need to mandate, because under a Republican governor, a Democratic governor, it was permissive and it wasn't done. Now we have legislation done. We have a court mandate, and we're in our way. I need all of us, and NAACP proper, all chapters, to double down on calling for this bill to be moved and signed, because then it's not enough to just say a will. It's not enough to be a campaign talking point. We need to be intentional. I heard Kevin talk about working with the NJEDA, Governor Murphy, to his credit. Different departments did procurement, but it's not mandated. When you mandate it and you target it, New York has done it. We've seen the change of wealth growing from that, and it's business enterprises that are able to compete. We're not asking for them to give us anything. These are registered businesses that do the work, credentialed, certified to compete or contract to work with the state of New Jersey, which is one of the largest employers in the state, and it's their home state. We also learned from the report that MWBEs from out of state have more opportunity than New Jerseyans. So this bill is important. The goal is in the Labor Committee, which I'm also on. It passed out of one committee. We're doing a second reading. So please email the Speaker of the House, email the Chair of the House, which is Anthony Borelli, the Chair of the Committee for Labor, to post the bill. That's the action steps that we can take, which can be email, as simple as that. I'll have my staff person, I think she's on Chief of Staff, Shaylin Bivens, to actually email you his email address, because our voice has power, our vote has power, and your support can help me get this over the finish line. Thank you.
Awesome. Assemblywoman Sumter, that was, we thank you for being a champion, and we thank you for helping us help you to make sure that we can get this, because sometimes it seems difficult, to, again, go through the websites to see who's who, right? Oh, we can't find a phone number. You can't find the right email. So that will certainly help us move everything forward. We have also been signing a change.org petition that was started by the African American Chamber of Commerce. And so we're trying to get that petition to 1,000. We will be sending that back out after this meeting. I believe we're at about 775 signatures. So we still have some ways to go, and we've been collecting signatures for a while. So I'm directing this part to the general body. Guys, we need to make sure we are signing these petitions, because the more signatures, the more support weight that Assemblywoman Sumter has to push it forward as well. So we will be pushing that back out to everyone to ensure that it is getting signed. We want to get to 1,000 signatures.
Thank you.
So again, yes. So I want to thank our three presenters. And I have a couple of questions that I'm going to pose. And hopefully we have been getting questions in the chat. And I believe we have someone who is also monitoring the questions that are coming in from Facebook as well. So don't feel like if you're that you cannot ask a question. Do still put it in the Facebook comments as well, because someone is monitoring those. So just a quick check to see if there are any questions in the chat. Right now, there aren't, but I'm going to start with Deputy Ladd. One of the things I would like you to share, there were two things. One is how often or where is it reported how the city is progressing towards meeting those goals? Is that something that is done annually? Is it done quarterly, and maybe only published, once or twice a year? How will we know or find out how we're doing as it relates to moving to the 30% and 45% participation?
A fantastic question. I understand completely. So what I'll say is that as the city, we are working on using technology better to do report cards. I will say that I have two of the Equitable Growth Advisory Commission members on here, and they know that when it comes to housing and affordable housing, we have better trackers and better report cards. So I say that partly because the responsibility for tracking it is within the workforce development arm of the city, which is not necessarily me, but I'll go the other route, which is what we do is we do talk to all the developers when they're doing real estate development and tell them that they have to meet these requirements. And then we do track it through the process through approvals on the financing. But to your question about results, that would be the Workforce Development Office. And I do believe the Workforce Investment Board also has some of that data. The second part, though, about contracts within the city, our purchasing office, which is within the finance department, they run those numbers. And then also each department can run it ourselves. In both accounts, I'd say they're not published. I would definitely agree that encouraging the city to publish them makes sense.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And one last question. You mentioned that there were 16 co-development projects. Are you able to share the details of at least like one or two so that we can, when we ride past, we say, oh, there's one?
Sure. And I'm also happy to send you a full packet of their information. One project in particular is working with the Autism Center, and they're going to provide housing and also services. And so I feel like that is very exciting, that project. And I'll be sure to send out the actual location of it. But it's very exciting to see that because it's affordable housing, but it's also accessible housing, and it's also services. And I think that it was really important to the city to be able to provide additional housing options than maybe we didn't have in the past, or maybe it was just not enough of that type of housing. The second one I'll tell you is in the North Ward. It's on Sylvan Avenue. I actually know that address. That is being done by La Casa Don Pedro. And then they have a co-developer, and they're actually doing affordable housing on that site. It'll be, it's great because it's been a vacant building for a very long time. And so probably over a decade. And so it's great to have a group like La Casa Don Pedro wanting to purchase it and then also be able to build affordable housing. So, but I will, Madam Chair, be sure to send you a list of all of them and give you a description because it is exciting. Our big thing for the year is to get everybody under construction. So last year it was to get everyone closed. This year it's to get everyone under construction. So that'll be even more exciting because then they can open soon enough.
Awesome. And I think I know the Autism Project. I believe it's with Naissance Place.
Yes, it's with the Sans Place.
Yes. Yes. And as my business, we're very close with, so excited to see that organization is part of this process and this project because the programs that she's wanting to implement are really, they're needed. And it's a community that has in the past been neglected. So thank you. And I'm excited that that's one of the projects. Okay. So my next question, it looks like Assemblywoman Sumter may have had to move on with her being double booked.
She's here. She's with us.
Oh, okay. Are you still here? Okay.
Yes.
Awesome. But what I do want to do is if you are in a time constraint, I think I'm going to come to you next.
Okay.
Regarding the questions, I guess. So, and it might be a little, what I want to say, unfair because we're not sure if you have the information, but in addition to what's happening at the state level, right, we also know that the county, right, has also the same type of disparity, if not worse, right? So what would you say that we should be pushing our commissioners to be doing And if you happen to know if there's one or two things that they are doing that we're not aware of, please share, or what we should be doing to follow up with them.
Sure. So I would say check in with them, because my understanding is that Essex County commissioners actually were supportive of MWBE businesses and contracting with them. Now, what their data is currently is something that you can look into, saying we need to start keeping a repository of that information. We have broadband support for the initiative, but again, it's been permissive. So we really want to hard code it. I do believe they passed a resolution some time ago, but now is the time, because literally, if you do it at the state level, county, and municipal, we have over 500 municipalities in the state of New Jersey. It makes a difference. And you really can move from being a subprime to scale, right, with prompt payment and participation, to move into being a prompt. You'll employ within your own community, right? The business ecosystem will continue. So I think asking those questions, people don't go to the commissioners meeting unless they're getting honored. So showing up and asking those questions could be very, very impactful. Thank you for that question.
Awesome. Thank you. And, you're so right. I have recently learned that everything is right online. Even if we don't get to go, one of the things I've
Yes,
started doing is reading the agenda items, at least, just to know what's even being discussed.
absolutely.
So that is certainly um, awesome that we're, that's happening, and that we need to know that those are things that will push the needle, right?
Yes.
Um, Also,
I have a
my,
question. I have a
mhm,
question. May I?
yes.
My question is of Dr. Lyons, because he said something and then he issued
Mhm.
an action, and I'm all about action. Like, it's not enough to have conversation about something and not do anything about it. That was how I started this meeting, by saying
Right.
that. So I want to, um, you gave us marching orders. Um, you gave the school marching orders. Um, the business people, um, who have become
Mhm.
despondent because they've tried so many different times and have gotten rejected, and it's like, oh, whatever, I'm not even going to bother. It's sort of like they need to have a call to action as well, from the school, from you, um, so that it is, the work is being done simultaneously on different levels. Because to have the opportunity but not have the people, it doesn't do anything. To have the people and to not have the opportunity, it doesn't do anything. And so, we also have on, our Zoom call today the state chair for the New Jersey State Conference NAACP Economic Development. And so, this is something that the Newark Economic Development committee can share, not only with the other branches in Essex County, but throughout the state, by way of the, Deirdre Malloy, who is the state economic chair. This is, it's like I said, it's one thing to talk about it, but you have given us a blueprint. This is what you need to do,
Mhm.
and we're ready to do it. We're ready to do it. Now, don't act like you don't know us when we come to you, Dr. Lyons. I'm just saying, we know where to find you, okay? So and we ask that you become a part of this, so that periodically, I mean, we're not going to just work you daily, but periodically, if we can come to you and say, hey, and the we would be in the form of the chairperson, Tara, coming to you to say, this is what we've done. What do you
Mhm.
think?
Sure.
Um, you have any suggestions, any, something that will allow us to keep moving forward with this? Because I would say, oh, over 10 years ago, there was a disparity study done for the Newark Board of Education. It went nowhere. It did nothing. And I would suspect that there is still one that's needed now, another one. So because that was so long ago, and I suspect that it would have the same dismal outcome that these others have had as well. And so we give us the blueprint and we'll walk with it. Madam Chair, Deirdre Malloy
Yes,
has her hand
yes,
up.
yes. I see it. I was going to move to her next. So, State Chairwoman Malloy, please.
I thank you very much. I'll be very brief. I just want to say that this is an amazing panel discussion. And, for some time, I want everyone to know that, as state chair, there have been discussions about the disparity study. All the chapters have had access to information, and I'm very excited to see Newark leading the charge. And as I said, there are some contacts that I will share with you. I'm at the state level in some capacities, so there will be cases where I'll need to recuse myself. But I am definitely looking forward to supporting this and making sure that you all have whatever you need. And Dr. Lyons and all the other speakers, thank you so much. I'm very familiar with your work. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us today and accepting our invitation. So just as a point of information, we did also invite Dexter Hendricks, who is with Turner Construction. He got stuck due to all the turmoil with the flights, right? So his flight was delayed to make it back in time to participate with us, but he really did want to be here. But the intention there was to get the perspective from someone who is a contractor who has from an organization that is a prime contractor with the state, right? And who is somewhat mandated or encouraged, right, to ensure that their subprimes are of diverse businesses. And for him to kind of talk about what that kind of organization would need to do to increase and do what they need to do, and what kind of supports they would need from the state so that they can increase their numbers of diverse businesses as well. One thing I do want to share is that Turner Construction does have something similar to what Dr. Lyons had spoke about with is a boot camp, right? For businesses to learn how to work with Turner Construction, and they will send you through training so that they can then ultimately hire you as a subprime on the contracts that they have. So there are programs happening out there. The issue is that there's just not enough, right? Because even though that's great, it turns out that they had a cohort of, I believe, 20 or so businesses, but really only one ultimately was able to get a contract, right, with them or become a full subprime with them. So, while there are programs happening, we got to get that number up. So that, that was at 5% of the total, right? So the more companies that are doing that, and the more that businesses know, right? Because I'm a business owner as well, and had no clue that that kind of thing was available. So these are some of the things that we have to make ourselves aware of so that we can, again, hold others accountable. Professor Lyons, did you have another comment?
Yeah, just real quick, a response, just real quick to Deborah's question or comment. So a couple things that actually happened since the Essex County released their report. And that was that Leroy Jones contacted me and said, we need to do something. So we met with the county folks, and I'm developing an implementation program for the procurement folks at the county level, and then we're going to go to the 22 municipalities procurement folks and do basically the same thing. So basically, they said we want to get our house in order first, and by example, in a sense, show that the municipalities can do the same thing. The important thing that Deborah had mentioned was the suppliers. So the idea of being able to outreach and work with all suppliers, not just because you're in construction or, you're in the trades or whatnot. It's like every supplier needs to actually have contact about the process and how they can better position themselves to participate in the contracting process. So the problem is, obviously they've been trying, decades. And at some point when they get a solicitation, they kind of look at it and say, yeah, I don't want to, I don't have to spend the time knowing that I'm going to go through this entire process and end up not getting anything. So, you know, for a small business to spend that much time preparing all the documents and whatnot, and then end up with nothing, where you could have been doing something else, um, a job that actually did, pay, is very demoralizing. So what we've are going to be doing starting this summer and then into the fall, internships generally are with like large corporations and companies and whatnot. And that's like a big thing for the business school. So I kind of re-engineered that whole thing. And now students are going to be assigned to work with our local businesses here in the city of Newark,
Oh,
where basically they're going to be graded on their performance of how well that business does. So as far as making sure they have the most relevant information about the market, opportunities. If there is a bid that needs to go out, then they help prepare, a lot of documents and such that are necessary. Looking at funding and uh, funding as well as financial opportunities as well for investments. So we're kind of trying to re-engineer the whole idea of we should be spending much more time with our small business community rather than, hey, let's have a class and kind of teach them how to do this and how to do that. It's like nobody has time for that. They already know how to do 95% of everything that we say we're having classes for. It's all about opportunities. So we really need to step up our game and spend more time out in the field with our suppliers. So that's all I really wanted to say.
mhm. And that's awesome. As a small business owner myself, and as someone who has spent 3 days putting together an RFP, that was ended up being nearly 100-page document, um, and running back and forth trying to get notaries for different documents, and making sure you had the right version of the document that's being requested, et cetera, and then trying to meet the deadline for having the 6 copies and the flash drives available for presentation, right? So if there's something that's going to be done to streamline that process, we would love it. um, Certainly. In addition, not only just for the large bids, but maybe it's also some support. What I found is if something is under the threshold, right, for when you would need to do a bid. And that's something that I think some of us aren't always aware of either, is that, there you can get projects up to, I think it's 17,500 without having to do all those documents, right? But the question is, how do you find out about those? Or how do you position yourself or make a proposal to someone? Like, who would you make the proposal to for a project that you may have that may be just 17.5? So understanding how to present a proposal for projects that are below the threshold would also be a great support to small businesses as well. Because that's one thing that I'm working on, like trying to figure out how to best position my proposals and who to send them to for the projects that we have. Because the more smaller projects, right, will ultimately lead you to the greater ones. So were there any thoughts about that?
Yeah.
Could I just add? Oh, sorry,
Go
Dr.
ahead.
Lyons. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Allison. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
I was just gonna say in the city of Newark, our threshold is for director's approval is 52,000.
Okay.
So just an add on, I'm sure others have different thresholds, but that's a lot of what I was first
Mm-hmm.
speaking about how we do contracts is that we're able to be able to reach a lot of Newark businesses, and we try to do that on all accounts. And I think that is really where the mayor was talking to directors. And so we work with our staff to do that. But ultimately, I think that like whenever somebody comes to me and says, hey, I want to hire this service, I always ask them, is it Newark based or is it an MBE or WBE, which I think is part of what also has to happen. So I think
Mm-hmm.
Kevin said, or Dr. Lyon said something about being intentional. So if you don't have a leader, in my opinion, like Mayor Baraka, who says we have to be intentional, then you may not have directors who ask the question when somebody says, hey, I want to buy this, because it's a natural thing for me now. And actually now my staff knows they'll never bring anything that's not Newark. So, or an MBE or WBE if there's no one in Newark who could do it. But I just give you that intel because I think that so many people in the city of Newark City Hall do this because we have the ability to. So just felt like I would share that because it's a little more than the 17, but felt like
Right.
52 is helpful sometimes too.
Awesome.
Sorry, Dr.
Great to know.
No. That's okay, Deputy Mayor.
Dr. Lyons.
Yeah, that is critically important that you have leaders. And I've actually been in the room several times when Deputy Mayor has made that, hey, where's this company from? And given that priority. So that's key because everybody else under your leadership then follows that. But what I was going to say is that now that these disparity studies have been done, there has been on the books forever in the state of New Jersey the a whole set aside legislation, meaning that you can basically just go to a specific supplier, uh, again within those thresholds, and without having to go through the bid process. So what the sticking point used to be is that folks would complain and say, well, why are you using this set aside? But the disparity studies now open that up because the disparity studies have to show, in this case, it does a need. And the folks that were complaining before about the set aside program, there was no a formal study that said, that you were allowed to do that. So this is the time to open that up as well. So you have the bid threshold, which was just discussed, and you have the ability, the procurement folks have the ability to use set asides as well. So it's something that definitely needs to be discussed. But again, the more contracts you get, even if they're small ones, shows a track record of accomplishment, and that leads to, much bigger contracts as well.
Yes. Well, I certainly, if there are no more questions, I certainly want to thank our panelists for participating, for accepting our invitation, and for sharing a wealth of knowledge with our general body and with our business owners, right? Definitely, Mayor Ladd, thank you. Uh, Dr. Lyons, thank you. And Assemblywoman Sumter, we thank you. And we also wish you the best in your next endeavor. But in the meantime, we will be calling you before you're gone. And I'm looking forward to being able to share um, the marching orders, right, that we are going to have with our general body as well as with my committee, so we can organize which ones are we going to tackle and tackle them and attempt to tackle them methodically, right? So ensuring that our business owners, that we have our act together, right, so that we're ready, and then pushing our legislators to make the processes one, more transparent, and less onerous on business owners, so that both things can meet together and hopefully increase these numbers to be more reflective of the diversity of our state. So we thank you. Thank you so much. Um, and if there are no other questions, I am going to turn it back over to our president, Dr. Deborah Smith Gregory, to move on to the next portion of our meeting. And again, thank you.
And I too want to thank you all for sharing the information with us and for the challenge that you're giving to us. Oftentimes people say, what do you do? What we do is advocate. That is the NAACP role. It is a role of advocacy. So to push bills and to write about bills and to prick the public's consciousness about legislation and opportunities, that's what we do. We're clear that we're not a service organization, but that we advocate. And you, the three of you have given us a wealth of information. Now, what we do with it is on us. And so, surely the Economic Development Committee knows that we will have a follow-up and then push forward. We have to keep moving forward. So thank you.